Welcome to Season 2 of Free Range Thinking. Join us in our cozy recording caves and dive into some interesting topics and rabbit holes around the topic of neurodiversity with us. Ask us and share your stories with us, or get in touch with us, or come onto the show and we can talk together. We had this little call to action always on the end of the podcast and thought, hey, we should say it up front so that you can get in touch with us. You can reach Alex, that's me, at mail at alex minus dash. Sorry, I have to start again. Because I'm so used to saying my email address in German. Mail at alex minus kahl.de. And Sharon?
Hi, I'm Sharon Lee. You can message me as well. And I think you can find that in the show notes. I'm not going to go through all the spelling of it. And because it's fairly long. So anyway, we enjoy talking about and celebrating how people like us can not only thrive in today's world, but prosper, because the world desperately needs neurodivergent humans to bring real transformation and evolution to mankind. And we are the keys to the shitstorm of a one-size-fits-all world, and that is no joke.
That is no joke. And Sharon just told me about an interesting podcast she listened to. And I have something along that line as well, I think. So shoot right away.
We're going to just jump around like we usually do, you know.
Yes. Jump around.
Modus operandi.
Jump up, and kick down.
Okay, that was your exercise portion of the podcast. Mm-hmm. Now that we're all awake, and I have a full carafe, or now half full carafe of coffee here, and so we will jump into it. So this it was like yesterday, is the second podcast that I've listened to that had this guy, Ozan Varol on it. And this guy's like a rocket scientist now, and he was a professor, and then he likes writing, he's a speaker, blah, blah, blah. You can look up his bio. But the book that I find most interesting, and that he's going on the podcast circuit for, so it's like great because you can hear him talk about it from a number of different angles and perspectives, and is called Awaken Your Genius, Escape Conformity, Ignite Creativity, and Become Extraordinary. And the thing that really strikes me about this, I mean, it's very exciting because it's what I've been talking about, forever. And it's like my mother was speaking about these things, and there's so many elements in it, and how I was raised. And so I was mowing the lawn yesterday, and I had to stop and pull out my phone, and then I was listening to a podcast that he was on. So I pulled out my phone and paused the podcast, and went right into my notes and wrote the phrase being raised with abundance and not scarcity. And the mindset of that, and how powerful that is. Just that phrase, and I hear things all the time, and I talk about it all the time. But for some reason yesterday when I was mowing the lawn, when something came out of his mouth, I don't know if it was those exact words, it was just, like a lightning bolt. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's help people reconnect, like with their core selves, and with their creative self, which is the core self. And it's like, do neurodivergents have a better connection to this state? And or do we have a better chance of reconnecting? And if we do, what, can we help other people, and the world, because we might have a good connection to it. So this is like an open question that I'm chewing on right now, and something I find fascinating. But our muscles of living outside the norm of society are so well developed, even though it's painful and stressful and can be traumatizing. Those muscles are fairly well developed, and of being an outsider and being different. And so it's like, what is it that is, this connective tissue with, and I don't mean genius in terms of, because a lot of people think, with autism, everybody's just this savant of something. And, it's okay for us to be ordinary and not be a genius or not be a savant. And of course, that's why a lot of people go undiagnosed. But it's like, where's the overlap between, the scarcity mindset and the abundance mindset and the freedom that it gives us? I know I just totally like fire hosed you with word salad in there, but this is what's going on in my head. So voila. So Alex, make something out of that.
I had the first question that comes to my mind is abundance or scarcity of what? What is abundant and what might be scarce? Or is it?
It's a mindset of like, there are, and I know that there's a lot of people that in this where they speak about how right now in the world there's the scarcity mindset, and it's a kind of a narrow way of looking at things, and the all or nothing, the black and white, the Cartesian thing. But it's like, there's not enough for me, and therefore, so the decision making is skewed because of that. And there's and with an abundance mindset is that it's going to, not that it's going to be okay. I'm definitely paraphrasing, my God, because it is very complex, but there's enough for everybody. If somebody does something good, I don't feel, jealous or envious in a negative way. I'm like super happy for them. I'm like really excited when people I know do really well. And whereas some people feel like if somebody else is doing well, then it's not enough, that they're going to miss out on something. This is kind of this is just one example of a scarcity and plenty mindset. But it's on a lot of different things. I mean, governments, my God, my government in the US right now, it's like, holy cow, the whole thing seems to be totally skewed on scarcity mindset. Yeah. Anyway, so thing with what he's talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
Just to paraphrase it, people who live in a scarcity mindset always struggle with getting enough of the cake, or are anxious about not getting a piece of the cake, and people with the abundance mindset just bake their own cake.
That's definitely simplifying it. I don't know if I would totally look at it like that. But yeah, it's the scarcity mindset, definitely. Like somebody who feels like, oh, everybody's doing, like if you're going to start a business, and then is that little voice in the head of like, oh, everybody else has already done that. Oh, they beat me to it. That's the scarcity mindset. Where it's like, I mean, everybody's perspective is quite different. So go ahead and do your thing. And where, so this is that's another example of it. But it's like, there's not going to be enough for me, or somebody's already done it. Why me? Somebody, like for jobs, anyway, I could go on and on about that.
Yeah, I mean, there are different sides. It's a medal with like unlimited sides. When I think of it from an ADHD perspective, for example, we talked about that briefly, then I can relate, for example, with the feeling of everybody else have done it, or we just talked about some minutes ago before we started recording that our lists of projects or ideas for projects, platforms, apps, websites, whatever that we had, and then somebody else did it, is really long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
But I don't feel like
just and
somebody's cheating me.
no,
Sorry,
no,
go ahead.
not cheating, not cheating me, but I sometimes feel like helpless or frustrated, and I always thought it's because okay, I never learned to code and I never learned to do something myself, to make something by myself, so that's the reason why I often have this. Oh, now there comes this app, and I had this idea 5, 6 years ago. And understanding ADHD much better, I think it doesn't have to do that much with, even if I would be able, and if I could code, I would still be lacking, for example, the executive functions to build it anyway. So it's not just the knowledge or the skills that I don't have. It's also really hard for me to finish something even when I have the skills. So it's really complex, especially in that field, in that okay, what I have done, and what didn't I manage to finish, for example. And the reason is not always the scarcity of skills or knowledge or opportunity. Oftentimes, maybe I had the opportunity, but it was hard for me to execute on something.
Well, it's more about not the fact that there is or isn't a scarcity. It's the mindset of how we're looking at things that is important. It's like, how do we feel about it? How do we create our own scarcity because we're thinking that, or the scarcity of things actually happening, not the scarcity of that there actually is a scarcity of something, but we sometimes create in our heads this fictitious scarcity that doesn't really exist. This is what I mean by the mindset of it. And how with the like kids. Now, granted, kids are super competitive because my sister and I were, my sister was super competitive with me and was like, she's got more, she's got this, she's got that. My mother was like constantly trying to make things fair to show her that I didn't have more or things weren't better. My sister was super competitive like that. I didn't care. I don't know why I didn't care. Couldn't tell you, but I know that I've, so I always think about it. Do I have a natural, abundance perspective on things? I had, so this is what I find fascinating. Now this is only one tiny chunk of what this guy was, the whole thing of what he's talking about, but he's talking about how the main thing of it is making, I say making time, but what I got out of it, that totally boiled down to it, is giving ourselves time to play whatever play looks like for you. And that a lot of people with the scarcity and abundance mindset, it's like, how do we do that is what I was thinking about. How do we, carve out time in an abundance to like I said, play with whatever in whatever way that feels good, and what do we trim back, what do we take out of our lives, things that don't really matter, and how do you decide that,
and it's
what
kind
matters
of
and what doesn't?
it's kind of a cycle. I mean, when you are living with a
Yes.
scarcity mindset, then you always have a bad feeling, bad conscious that you didn't do enough, that you didn't perform well enough, and then you don't give yourself the time for play because you think, oh no, I do have to work and I do have to achieve more, and then I can allow myself a bit time to play, and that's counterproductive because you need the time to play to get into this more abundance mindset side.
Exactly. And it's so, I love what you just said. And so that's what he's saying, but not exactly in those words, but that's what it comes down to. And that it's been kind of backwards. I've noticed that it's when you look at a timeline of kind of the development of humans, and so it's during the industrial age it got off into the era. I mean, we got a lot out of it. It's not all bad. But what we need in this day and age is definitely more creativity and an abundance mindset to get us to next levels. And so it's like, wow, how do we bring that back? And of course, you and I know, tap into the everybody with neurodivergence, and what kind of creativity is outside the norm to get us to the next level, or not in the next level. It makes it sound like it's separate, but to make it life richer and better, because his book is called Awaken Your Genius and Escape Conformity, Ignite Creativity, and Become Extraordinary. Now, I think the Become Extraordinary is a little bit like, it sounds like another buzz thing.
Yeah.
And I think that can tweak a lot of people. I understand publishers are publishers, and they put, you got to put stuff on, but it's like, meh.
I just sometimes the really, really bad wordplays have to get out so that there's room for the good ones. But I just had to think about the bus driver.
The what? The bus driver?
The bus driver. The bus with two Z's at the end. A bus driver.
Oh, yeah. Like a bus driver, but the driving of the bus?
Yes, but you are creating the bus. So you are the bus driver.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. I had to say it out loud. Otherwise it would play ping pong in my head all the time.
No problem. No, you kind of derailed me. Where were we?
I remember.
I'm thinking now of like bees on a bus.
Yeah.
See, you did it. Now I'm thinking of bees on a bus.
Yeah, bees buzzing on a bus.
A bus full of bees. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I just thought of a concept I heard from I think I don't know if the podcast still is running, but there's a podcast that's called the Lifecoach School Podcast, and how is her name? Brooke. Okay, the woman that is doing the podcast and that is running this life coach school is called Brooke, and in one episode, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, she was talking about money mindset, and that is often that is often a topic that she has to work on with coaches and even with people that are learning how to become a life coach. And she often, she really transparently and honestly says she grew up in a money abundant household, so money never was a topic because there was always money there. And so she tries to teach people, and I think that might be the connection came because of time, because she always said in this topic that you can't create time, but you can create money. That was the point.
Yes.
And that everybody on Earth has like this 24 hours, and everybody has this the same time on their hands per day. But when you use your money, then you can use it to be more effective with your time.
Yeah.
That was one thought I had. Yeah, because there's not really an abundance of time, because there are just 24 hours in a day on the one hand side. On the other hand, I talked about this with my daughter on the weekend, because she was asking questions about time, and so, and after an hour of talking about time with an 7.5 years old, we both weren't so sure if there really is something like time, or if it's just a tool. If it's just it's really meta now, but if it's just a tool for
exactly.
humans,
I love it.
Something that humans made up to measure something, but that the time is just real for humans and not for animals, for example. Because animals, she said, but the birds, our birds, they can't read a clock, so is there time for them? And I said, yeah, that's a really good point. She said, like, they are not hurrying to get into the cage. I think that was the point why we start talking about it. Because my girlfriend was like, you have to go in the cage now and try to get the birds in the cage to put the blanket over it so that
and
we
they're
can
like,
go
huh?
to sleep.
What?
And they were like, why? No, they didn't want to. And that's how we came about that. They don't have the the urgentness to go into the cage, for example. It's our perception that the day is almost over and they have to go in there, but they go in there when they are hungry, but not because they look at the clock and say, oh, it's 5:30.
Oh, it's bedtime.
Now it's bedtime, right?
Yeah. And it's again, it's like we are not, very, very few people have the luxury of living on their natural circadian rhythm. It's essentially children. I mean, granted, there's like nap time and this and that, and there's everything is much more structured than when I was a kid. We had like lots of free time and play time, and we could do whatever we wanted. And so if you were tired, you lay down. But now things are very, very, very structured for the most part. And I know very few people who live on their natural rhythm. They don't even have a concept of what that looks like. And the other chunk of people who have the chance are people who are retired and much older. And sometimes it takes a while to practice that because they stay on the same schedule. But then to practice doing whatever, whenever. And it can look odd to most people, but it's what their natural state of being is. But like little kids and people in that age range, towards the last quarter of life, there's a freedom in the and kind of an abundance mindset naturally without even realizing it. It's that the time you can do whatever you want. There's a lot of it.
that plays a little bit into the theory we had 1 or 2 episodes ago, that neurodivergence or neurodivergent brains are maybe much closer to this primal brain, and that I'm thinking of time blindness, for example, time blindness for people with ADHD.
Yeah.
That this mechanism kicks in where you just completely lose your feeling or your track of time, because your brain isn't adapted evolutionary in, like, I don't know how time measuring really began in hours and minutes. It must be maybe 1,000 years old or 800
now, see,
years
I'm gonna
old.
argue that. I'm gonna argue with that our brains aren't haven't evolved for that. I think our brains are the not the better ones. I don't mean not the smarter ones, because that's a comparison, this and that. But I think we've been able to retain the elemental
Yes.
primal state. I don't think we haven't evolved. I think we've got it, but it's like we don't care. And so what is primal is stronger and has precedence or something like this. Is probably total bullshit, but this is kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
It could, because it's hard to describe. And because most of us, when we say, we don't care, and some people go, I care, because it causes a lot of pain to not be like that. And yeah, but what if the time constraints and the time pressures weren't around us? How would you feel about it then? Because all of the pain and the agony and the frustration and whatever is from an external pressure.
I have another
because
example.
We don't feel like that naturally.
I have another
Not
example.
when we're on our own. If we didn't have the input, yeah.
I was just thinking about the really light form, or a conscious form of dyslexia. I don't. When you said I don't care about little spelling errors, for example, in my writing. I leave them in there because everything inside of me says no and pushes away the thought of editing it, working over it the second time, because it's finished. And when there are 5, 6 little spelling errors in it, I don't care, as long as I'm sure everybody's going to understand it. Maybe there's,
I hear you.
Maybe there's a connection there as well. That's other people who really want to obey to rules, or say everything has to be correct because that's how it's supposed to be. And I'm always like, we made this spelling up, we made the letters up, we made the words up, so I can change it, or I can say I don't care about several little spelling mistakes, for example, in a text.
But other stuff of that like drives me around the bend, and I think it's the wordsmith, because I can't spell. I just can't, as I say, I can't spell my way out of a wet paper bag. But I make the effort. But I mean, if I don't have something in there, or if I have something in there that's misspelled, it's because I didn't notice it, because I don't know how to spell the damn thing. And it's sort of like when the teachers in school would say, well, that's wrong. I say, well, how do you spell it? They say, well, look it up. And I'm like, I can't look it up. And even with the dictionary and Google, sometimes I'll type something in trying to figure out how to spell a word, and it won't give me the right answer because I can't spell it enough to get an answer for the right word. That's super frustrating. But it's sometimes I can tell that it's the wrong way to spell it, but other times I have no idea that something is misspelled. Now, of course, they run it through the program, but so I correct things. Of course, I run it through the correction, so I catch a lot of them. But yeah, but because sometimes there'll be like such a similar wording or such a similar spelling, but it changes the word. And so that's the thing that I'm concerned about in terms of communicating, because one small mistake, like the to and the, give this to you, to, and too much, too. And the loose and the lose, that one makes me crazy when I see it, because I know the difference of it. And, so I don't correct everybody else. I'm not like, the grammar drill sergeant to anybody. Because it's not my place. But the loose and the lose thing, LOSE, lose, and LOOSE, loose, like my shoelaces are loose. And so when people use those interchangeably, that makes me crazy when I see it. And but it's like it's like in terms of writing French or German, my God, the amount of mistakes. I always say I can now butcher the grammar in 3 languages.
May I ask? May I ask? Do you know why that's driving? Do you know why that's driving you crazy? I mean, is it because
I think it's because it's it's a pattern upset, not because somebody has done something wrong. It's not a punishment thing like that. It's like it stops me. It stops me from reading. It's like throwing, as I'm riding a bicycle smoothly. It's like tossing a stick through the spokes of a bicycle. It's disruptive. As I'm reading it, it just it's like an alarm goes off while I'm reading it. It's not from this dumbass person doesn't know how. It's not that, and it's I guess especially when it's disruptive. Okay, here's the mindset kind of thing. If I'm in an environment where it's very, very diverse and people from all over the world, which I'm in more often than not, that's kind of the place where I habit. Now I'm like I'm mixing my languages. Where I live, okay, that's most of the time, right? Is in places and rooms and groups that are very international, so that English is not the first language, and I'm very often the only native English speaking person in the room, and so then it doesn't faze me. But when I'm in a group that's predominantly, or especially all native English speakers, I feel like on one hand I can relax and use like different vocabulary that and a more complicated vocabulary than I do when I'm in international rooms, and play with words more and things like that. And so when I see the writing or somebody uses something, that's when it jumps out at me.
But
when it's like pretty much all English.
Makes any sense. You just for the first time I got an explanation that will make me pay more attention to spelling, because I never that's like that just was a moment, a similar moment to my understanding what aphantasia means, for example, that not everybody in this world doesn't see these mental images, or that most of the people in this world have mental images. I was never aware that a misspelling in a word could lead to this alarm in your head, like you just described it.
Yeah.
So that for me, do you know those those texts that are like with twisted words that are, where the letters are twisted a bit, and sometimes they put in their numbers instead of letters, like a 4 for an A. To show you, okay, our brains are able to recognize words even if they are completely wrong. And I think my brain maybe it has to do with my bad eyesight, for example. I can't see in 3D. So I was explained by an eye doctor that he said, okay, your brain is used to, since you're a little child, is used to decode the images that your eye sees in 2D into 3D. Otherwise, you would run into furniture all the time. So I can't see really spatial. Like I can't see the room as it is, but my brain manages to see the patterns so that I walk around stuff and not into it. Maybe there's a connection as well that as a side effect, my brain is also able to just read a word even if it's written wrong in different ways, because it's trained to make that up. And for other people, it's maybe really, really hard work to, and then now I can understand it, that you might sit there and think like, shit, that gives me such a hard time to puzzle together this text because somebody else was too lazy, for example, to use the autocorrection and write properly. I was never aware of that could like cause almost physical pain in other people.
And it's interesting because it's not that big a deal. I mean, we're talking about it, so it sounds like it's a big deal. It's really not. It's like such a tiny blip, but there's certain things, and again, I do wonder if it's, as a dyslexic person and like the coping skills that I have developed, to get to even graduate high school, and the amount of effort that took is so it's like when certain things, some of the things are like super solid and like written in stone, and so when some of those things get violated, it's like that's what what really is kind of jarring a little bit. Yeah, it's certainly no big deal, and it's
for you, I mean, for you it's not a big deal. I could imagine that there are people out there for those it really is a big deal, and I never thought about that. So that's really aha moment. That there might be
I do like hearing stories of how this kind of stuff affects people, because of course all of our all of this is so different, and it's the people who are quote unquote neuronormative, they experience a lot of this struggle stuff as well. But the ones that are like super rigid about grammar and spelling, and when you come across them, you're like, hey, ease up. Not all of us can do that. I kind of want to stand up in the room and speak for those of us who really kind of struggle with some of this stuff. Because I've done that a number of times in like public forums or whatever, and somebody else is really taking somebody to task about it, and I'm like, hey, you don't know what their level is or capacity, and if they're native or non-native English speaker. And so it's like, but again, this is that thing of we're edging back around onto scarcity and abundance. You know, it's like there's enough language, there's enough time, there's enough for everybody, and enough patience. You know, we can let go of the controls a little bit and relax a little bit, because everybody has the right to communicate. And if people are really doing their best, you know, it's enough. It's enough. Because some people, it's a thing of, you know, you have to be precise and exact, or you don't have a ticket into the room. And it's like, okay, but how easy are you making those tickets to obtain? You know, what's the criteria of gatekeeping? You know, because the gatekeeping thing definitely has, you know, and it's like when I write announcements for workshops that I'm doing, there is a certain amount of gatekeeping, because or filters of who I want, you know, the kind of typical people or the types of people I want in the workshops. And because if you don't filter, then it's kind of waters everything down. So if you're filtering for a niche of something, of course, you know, you want to use the right filters, but not a broad filter that's just going to punish everybody or weed out. So I'm like really, I do it with a lot of intention, and I'm very, very careful about the filters that I use. And I can tell you that for most of the things that I do, the filters, people who are open, curious, and interested. That's the general filter, you know, because they say, who is it for? You know, who is this for? I'm like, people who are open, curious, and interested. That's my number one filter. And it's like the people who show up, you know, either they're attracted by that, just that, or if they are super critical and punishing and scarcity kind of mindset type of person, it's and this isn't, now I'm edging into Priya Parker thing of like, you know, setting the boundaries in a room. If somebody comes into the workshop and then they start, you know, exhibiting the kind of critical behavior, then I can, like, you know, address that in the private chat and say, hey, you know, here's the boundary.
Do these three filters, being open, curious, and interested, does it always work, or are there boundaries to those filters?
It's one filter. It's one filter.
Okay.
And I just put it together. And because the different filters and the stuff that I'm doing is in the languaging and the wording, and it can be in the placement of the images. It's all filtering. It's when I choose a photograph to use, or I choose something. For example, I've been using more and more artwork. Now, a lot of people feel that that's very unprofessional. It should be like graphics. You should be using Canva, yada, yada, yada. And I say this because people have told me this. You know what you need to do? And I'm like, no, thanks for your opinion. I'm filtering, you know, the people who are attracted to the original artwork. These are kind of the ones that I think would really enjoy what I'm doing. So everything we're doing is a filter. And it's interesting because this swings back around to the book, because Ozan talks about, where does he say, where we learn to discard what doesn't serve us, you know, and discover what our first principles are, the qualities that make up what we do want. And he says that make up your genius. I think in terms of genius, I think it means you know, what makes us different or atypical, or you know who we are. You know, and so it's important to know that. Therefore, we can put the appropriate filters on it and attract the types of people that we want to work with and play with and interact with and socialize with. And so this is what I do with the announcements and everything that I put out. It's very, very thought, you know, it's got a lot of thought in it. Well, I would say thoughtful, but I guess that. It's very precise. don't particularly like something, and they go, well, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, well, okay, that filter worked. Because they're going to be critical, or they're going to be this or that, type of thing. Maybe it's not the time for them on that particular day. Maybe they would be more open next month when I do a different workshop, and suddenly the announcement looks tasty and interesting, and they're curious enough to step into it. That type of thing.
Does he talk about where abundance can overwhelm us?
Again, it's not the abundance thing, it's the abundance mindset. It's how we perceive things. Do we see things with an abundance mindset, or do we perceive things as being as this scarcity? Where are we positioned? For example, I can give you another example of that, and it's, again, I have permission. I probably haven't said this in a while, so I should say it again. I have permission from my wife to be able to use us as an example on certain things. And, and it's like how they were raised, she and her brother, it's like, whoo, heavy duty scarcity mindset. And man alive, she struggles with it, because when things start to, it becomes stressful at all, the slightest bit of stress, it's like, that's what she goes back to. I don't think, this is just a guess, I just don't think as human animals we are preset on the scarcity mindset. Then again, I don't know. But in a family, when you're raised with that, man, it makes it hard as an adult to make a switch out of that. Or if that's your baseline, it can be a fairly frightening and anxiety-inducing place to be, because it's for my wife. It's if one thing can set off this kind of chain reaction, and then it's like she's into almost having an anxiety attack off of something super small. But it's the we're all going to die, and we're not going to have any of this, and then we're going to have to live under a bridge. I mean, it goes off the rails. When it does, it just goes into this death spiral of negativity and scarcity. Whereas for me, if something is, and other people, I know other people like this, and people I hang out with, and it's like if something goes wrong, that's a trigger to look at the opportunities around me, and I see more ways. It's actually an opportunity multiplier for me, where the opportunities, and this is might be part of the ADD, ADHD thing and other stuff. But when things get really slow and normal, that's kind of when my thing for, like, my vision for opportunities sort of just kind of, it's not that it narrows, it just kind of is like, meh, because I operate really well in crisis mode. Now, what that can look like if you come from like kind of an unhealthy family or community culture, that can manifest in that people will create crisis in order to function when it's out of balance. That's what that looks like. But when it's in healthy balance, when stuff just slows down, I'm just like, it kind of gets into that minutia of repetitive stuff, and I don't really care for that. But it's like when things are like, oh my God, we're gonna die, and I'm like, no, we're not, and here's what we can do. That's when I kind of shine. It's like and throwing out like these very strange workshops, and where I get really good ideas is when things tend to look really bleak. But so it's the scarcity mindset can be or often can be, it's very neighbors with anxiety and lack of control, feeling of a lack of control and fear. neighbors with that. Brene Brown talks a lot about that.
And might be...
Don't ask me which podcast.
and might be some kind, or I think it might be a cultural thing as well. Or it can be...
Say more.
It can be emphasized or could feel stronger, especially the scarcity mindset could perceived stronger through specific cultures. I was just thinking when you were talking, that really reminded me, for example, of my parents who were or are living in this scarcity mindset really often, even though they don't need to. I find myself in that corner from time to time myself, even if I don't want to live in a scarcity mindset, or I have to dig my way out of it. And I think it has to do with what we talked about several episodes before. For example, this post-war generation in Germany that was raised by people, my grandparents, or this generation of grandparents who often lived through World War I as a child, then actively perceived World War II and lived through really extreme times of scarcity, followed up by this Wirtschaftswunderzeit, so the economic wonder, or the economic wonder time, that's called the 50s and the beginning of the 60s. This era in Germany was called the Wirtschaftswunderzeit, where suddenly everything was abundant again. And they had...
It's like in the U.S. with the...
It's like in the U.S.
It's like in the U.S. with the Great Depression. Yeah, because it's very much on the minds of the older generation.
I think there's something else.
Oh my God.
I think there's something else in there. I mean, the Great Depression, it wasn't only in the US, and it wasn't self-inflicted. And the generation in Germany was aware of, okay, we dug this hole for the whole world. We are guilty of the whole shit that happened 2 times. That's I think that is something that is
that's heavy
in the minds, especially in the minds of the generation of my parents who were born after World War II, but always lived with this guilt of the parents, and this what did our country do to the whole world? So we have to be really I'm thinking of the word here. I have to look up the word that I want to use.
That's a heavy thing to carry.
We have to be really humble, and we have to be really have some humility here. And we have to be really humble on the one hand side, but on the other hand, really productive and really get something done in our lives and make it better than our parents. And so that is a
God, you know what that pulls up for me? You know what that pulls up for me is I wish that people, all countries, because all countries are complicit. But it's like, what an amazing thing that would be if all countries could have the feeling about racism on that same level, and what that would do to the world. That would be extraordinary.
And they should. I mean, at least all
that's what I mean. That's like
all European countries better should have that feeling, because almost all Western European countries were colonizing 3/4 of the world.
But even countries where it's not non-Western countries within different sectors, the same way with their own people, and it's like we're the worst. Granted, the Westerners are the worst offenders by a long shot, but at the same time, it's like that thing. When will we, as a human race, evolve past that? That would be interesting to see. I know that's a total. I'm skewing this whole thing, but it popped into my head, and I'm like, that would be an amazing thing if people could follow Germany's very public, kind of living with intent, or the consciousness of that, of doing something that affected the whole world. That would be an amazing thing to have people model off of Germany, because the way you guys teach in schools about the Holocaust is I think extraordinary, and it's like it's very intentional. And I wish they would do that with racism and colonization, and in that writing of the history books, and not shying away from it. But again, okay, this is the thing of the plenty and the scarcity. It exists because of the scarcity mindset of they're going to take something of ours, and that they don't want to. In the U.S., I know I probably get slammed for this now. It's going to be on YouTube. So be it, bring it on, whatever. And but no, I feel very strongly about it, and it's like, say for what it is, and continue to speak about it, and speak about the imbalances and the unfairness, and don't smooth it over and hide it, and it doesn't mean we're responsible. I didn't do anything, but it's like, I can speak about it. This is what I'm doing. This is the way you make it better. And say, no, we don't cover it over and gloss it over. It's like, no, there's a responsibility here to be better. And
I mean,
but it's the thing of go ahead.
I just wanted to say, on a bit lighter note, when you look back, and when you I always think when people are over emphasizing or over celebrating democracy as a system, then I always think, okay, you still have to look where democracy comes from. So, and when you look into ancient Greek, like 2,500 years ago, democracy meant abundance for those who were allowed to. White men, free men, noblemen, those were allowed to participate in the democracy. No women, no foreigners that are living in the Greek countries, and of course no slaves. So slavery was a thing back there as well. And when you transfer that into today's time, that we really should embrace and think really, really good about how can we use AI and machines to generate this abundance. And to do as much work as possible for us, so that we don't have to so that we don't have to push this kind of work onto people who just do this work not because they want to, but because they are live not only in the mindset but in real scarcity, because they don't have any choice to say, no, I don't want to do this work, I want to do another work. And I think technology might be a really good puzzle piece. It's not the only solution, but it's something that gives a really, really good tool set to find a way out of this, and to generate or give the opportunity to have an abundance mindset to as much people as possible.
I agree. And it's the thing of I was kind of disheartened when I look at who can use the ChatGPT and the other one, what is it, Midjourney, and some of these other ones, and it's pay to play. You know, it's not, you know, it's put out by Google. You know, everybody's putting all these other different you know, GPT or AI platforms out, but it's like the people who are going to be able to use it are the people who already have, you know, and there's different paying tiers on it, but the ones where it gets really useful are in the higher levels of it, and it's like it's the pay to play, and still it's the gatekeeping. So the people who are challenged economically, which of course, you know, we already know who those people are, and it's the same people that are always in economically challenging situations, and you know, so it is racist, and I just, you know, I have a hard time balancing that, and it's like, okay, how do we make this accessible to everybody so that we can all benefit? You know, the equity. So what does that look like? What does a model like that look like? But I like it because it's like you know, because I'm doing the free version of these things, but it's like so limited. It's so limited. But this is why the thing is, I'm experimenting with it, and you know, it's like I can't, you know, I can't not going to. You get a subscription to all of them to play with them as unlimited. I can't, you know, so I've got other things I needed to prioritize. But it's like, you know, I do want to use the limited use of it that I have to ask good questions and say, like, what, you know, when you get in a conversation and like, okay, let's talk about this. What is this? How can this be equitable for everybody? Because that's how I think. This is part of the thing of the abundance mindset, is like I'm sitting in that gear. That's my baseline. And so it's like, all right, how do we do this? And I talk to a lot of people, and I put myself in the environment of people who talk about this stuff a lot. And so people who aren't, I mean, it's a mixed group, but the majority of them definitely are futurist thinking and abundant mindset thinkers.
It's especially with the AIs and as well the image generating AIs as the content generating. It's really fun to see how unbelievably fast this development is going on. And I mean, I read about something that is almost as good as ChatGPT 3.5. I mean, the version you have to pay for is version 4. But the version 3.5, there are already packages you can download and that can people install on their machine locally. so that they can use that, for example, for their own notes. It's really techy still, but it's evolving really, really fast, much faster than everything blockchain related, because blockchain, the whole blockchain technology is on such a complex meta level that it's not easy for it's just switched. Okay.
Did it? Mine didn't.
It's not easy. It's not easy for people to find a usage for blockchain, for example, or to play around with blockchain technology.
Right.
But ChatGPT is instant. It makes instant sense. You instantly know what you can do with it for most people, which wasn't the case in with the whole blockchain technologies. So that took much longer to get traction. And ChatGPT is just half a year old, and it feels like it totally has taken over the world in a hopefully good way.
Well, I like the conversations around it, and I just sending you I need to send you the article. There's, and I can try to think of who's the Scott Pellet, I believe. And so I'll send this to you, and it's on YouTube, and he's on 60 Minutes, and they're talking about Google unveiling things in chunks and not all at once, and that they're because they're saying they're trying to allow humankind to absorb what this new tool and what these new amazing things are, like, what are we going to do with it in the future, instead of just dumping it on everybody. And so they're trying to, I don't necessarily say slow it down, but they're kind of like eking it out a little bit at a time. So it's like, okay, now you can play with it like this. Now, not you can play with it, but now here, play with a little bit more of it, play with a little bit more of it. I can't say whether that's a good decision or a bad decision, but it's like, okay, I trust you because I know, shit all about it. And I wouldn't know how to make a decision like that. But it's, like you said, it's way easier to grasp than, say, blockchain. It's just a normal thing, but it allows us to have these discussions around it. And in terms of, like, how are we going to use it? How are humans going to, learn from it and teach each other? And so again, it comes back into the scarcity and plenty. Are we going to use it for gatekeeping? Are we going to use it for expanding and giving everybody more opportunity?
Yeah.
And the way everything has been set up and in industrialized structures, it's kind of, you have to have the haves and the have-nots in order to keep everything in balance. And it's like, do you? And so there's all these questions, and everybody's getting super philosophical about stuff right now, which is an amazing thing. And we're in this era of incredibly, where, as I say, the future is here. The science fiction is here. We're in it, and this is an amazing place to be in this day and age, to have stuff like this at our fingertips. Sure, you can't say whether it's all good or all bad. That's impossible. It's like with the telephone or automobiles or something. But it's like, okay, how are we going to use it? How are we going to, what parameters are we going to put around these things? But it's moving so fast that, of course, it's not going to be possible to put parameters that we probably should have. It's because, of course, that's the thing, like with all the technology that we've had, it's after the fact where people are like, oh yeah, maybe we should put a guardrail here or a boundary there, but you don't know. We're in such deep waters and fogginess that it's like, damn, there's just not possible to think of exactly how it's going to be. It's already rolled out. It's already out there.
Yeah.
But to keep having these discussions and again, being open, curious and interested in this stuff, and come at it from an abundance perspective of like, hey, this is interesting. What can we do with this? How do you, ask each person, what do you think? What do you what do you need? What, how would you like this to be? And just keep asking each other, and asking different people, and people from all areas, and then listen to listen to each other, and then of course, yes, run all the questions through the through the AI models that we're using. Pay attention, because it's a wild ride that we're on right now, and you can't possibly predict it. There are certain people you pay attention to, but I'm certainly not going to pay attention to the ones that are, screaming scarcity from the rooftops. It's like, yeah, no thanks. That's not going to get us where we need to be.
Is it, in Germany, since 2 or 3 weeks, it's like, okay, we have to pause everything. We have to pause the development on AI. We have to think about the rules. We have to think about the boundaries that we have to set there. And I'm
too late for that now. It's like,
yeah.
They're already out of the barn.
I don't know if it's too late. Maybe it's even too early. It's like when the first car comes out of a little workshop somewhere near Stuttgart, and people are screaming about, okay, we have to think about what the tempo limit on an autobahn has to be.
Yes.
People want to make rules for something they haven't understood yet.
Right. Exactly.
Not in the smallest pieces. So if you start creating rules for that, you are creating rules for scarcity. I mean, you're creating rules that, in my opinion, inevitably lead to scarcity.
Okay, but how about if we say, in terms of rules, okay, there's different, there's rules and boundaries on it, but saying, kind of like the Hippocratic oath of do no harm for doctors, things like this. It's like there should absolutely be in place things about human trafficking and racism, and it's like, but what should they look like? There should be discussions about this stuff. And we should, as a human race, be speaking about it and thinking about it. And if nothing else, we have great discussions about them, which are happening globally and should be happening globally. And it's not going to be the cure-all, but we have to have them. We should be having them. But there's certain, it's like the discussion about what is artwork and what is
design.
Yeah, the generated designs, and say, well, hey, if they take a piece of this and a piece of this and a piece of this artwork that is copyrighted and trademarked, should that be allowed to happen? Because it's like, I don't want a piece of my design showing up in something that's mine. But at the same time, there's, we all kind of evolve from each other's stuff. So what is actually totally original anymore? Nothing's original anymore. So how do we retain that? And I don't have the answers to any of that. What I do like are the discussions around it. And so this is, I think, more of a abundance mindset in terms of, let's be open and let's have a discussion about it. I don't know what the boundaries look like. And on some things, outright stealing something and having it be exact, okay, yes, we should have a boundary on that. It's like, don't take my shit. And as a creator and as a writer, artist, everything that I do and produce, it's like, no, I don't. That I want to be able to make an income off of my stuff and not have somebody steal it out from underneath me. Exactly how it is. Now, people evolve because they're affected by what we're doing and writing and creating. Yeah, it's a thing of the discussion about it. It's a dance. So they're not like hard boundaries. What is it? Strong beliefs lightly held. I like that phrase. So we can feel very strongly about something, but the worst thing we could do is get absolutely locked into any one thing completely. We should always kind of, here's my rule, here's my hard rule. You should always be ready to revisit and re-question and rediscuss. There should always be that caveat written into it, that it's like nothing is non-discussable. Is that a correct sentence? Nothing is non-discussable. I mean, is that a double negative?
Yeah. Nothing is
what I mean.
Not discussable.
No, nothing is.
It's like everything is discussable.
As everything is discussable, yes, and everything is negotiable.
Everything is figure outable.
Definitely, but it's like these are the kind of skills that we need to be teaching and sharing, is discernment and flexibility in belief systems, where we can be passionate about things and at the same time. It's a both and situation, where we can be very passionate about things but don't keep an iron grip on a belief, because then what it is, we're investing identity into that. And that's where things tend to go off the rails, is when our identity is attached to beliefs. So when somebody asks a question about the beliefs, then it feels like those challenge to the belief system is a challenge personally. And so if they're separated, it's a little bit more malleable, and we can look at things without taking things personally. Going, maybe I can, but more open discussions, and social discourse is will get us where we need to be in the future. But that's going to take some
and social discourse also needs abundance mindset, because social discourse is a lot of hard and time consuming work, and you have to have the time to be in the social discourse.
What do you mean?
If you want to take part in the social discourse or in the political discourse, you first need the time and the free room to be able to take part in it.
Well, I'm looking up,
because when you constantly have to think about how do I pay the bills next week or next month, then you are not able to really take part in a social discourse, because you are struggling.
A discussion is a discourse. A discussion is a discourse, and people have discussions all the time. This is what I'm meaning by it. Social discourse is interaction and discussion. It's not a formalized discourse thing. There's looking up the word discourse because I'm like, maybe I've got this wrong. It's possible. So discourse is a generalization of the notion of a conversation to any form of communication. Discourse is a major topic in social theory with some spanning fields. Really, that's what that means? I thought it was just like a discussion thing. Well, learn something every day. Can't wait till tomorrow. I thought it was just like it's a system of thought or knowledge. I was like, that's way too rigid for me. Okay, I changed my mind. See, this is how it's done. Let's just have conversations, all right? Let's just have conversations and see what comes out of it. There you go. I didn't think the word discourse was that rigid in its
I know from the German, the German meaning discourse is quite, it's not rigid, but it means a really specific kind of or set and direction of conversations.
No, I prefer my conversations more open, and then if it gets into that area, if it seeps over into that area, but I'd rather have the open discussions and have it seep over into that area than have this tighter discourse type thing, and start off from there.
And on the other hand,
because at the grassroots level of discussions, this is what's going to pull us into where we need to be. Because if we keep everything on kind of this academia level, again, you're having the gatekeeping thing, and you're not looking outside of that.
And I imagine that there are a lot of neurotypical people who think like, why should I have this discussion? I don't want to play, or I don't want to have an open discussion. I want to have an agenda. I want to know how long the discussion is going to be. I want to know what the outcome of the discussion has to be. Otherwise, I have other things to do.
Do you think that's only neurotypicals? I said, do you think that only is neurotypical?
I think that this kind of openness and being interested in new topics, or being interested in how other people see different topics, might be more of a neurodivergent thing, because neurodiverse people are more aware of that there are a lot of different perspectives on the same subjects, and neurotypical people are unconsciously thinking that everybody
it's a set way
thinks about the same way, because that's the way it is, and why should anybody think different? And they are in the majority.
Yeah.
So that emphasizes this way of thinking, maybe.
Maybe.
Interesting. Ooh, that was a really meta one. My alarm just went off. So I'm drifting up in the scarcity mindset here a bit.
No. We do have to jump, and that was interesting. Oh, we could totally go on and on about this stuff.
Yeah.
It does. Fun subject. Yeah, multiple subjects.
Multiple subjects, and I didn't expect to went in those really broad and on the at the same time really deep topics. Or heavy topics.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's while we were talking, I was thinking of a couple of people. I was like, oh, and we have to have a guest on soon. It's my bad. I'm like trying to contact people, and then it's like I get sidetracked on some other things. So the fact that we haven't had guests is totally my fault, and I'll try and get on that, because I think it would be fun to pull some people into the conversations that we're having right now because of what's happening in the world, and the astounding advances with technology that we're having right now.
I have the idea of two guests as well. The one I think would be much easier to get on the show. It's a friend of mine who is thinking about how to, if he should use medication because of his ADHD. So maybe we can get him on the podcast someday. The other one is somebody I came across again after years. That would be really interesting, but he doesn't want to talk about it openly. He made one statement. It's a German it's a German car tuner, and he's one of the most successful YouTubers in Germany with his channel about cars and car tuning. And I came across, I know him back from my auto blogging days. I know the guy, and I came across him again because he just did a series of 4 or 5 hour in total, a series with 5 episodes about how he got into the cockpit of a Eurofighter. And a pilot of the German Air Force was one of his customers with his car, and then they were driving around with the customer's car, and he said, like, is there any chance that I could get into your cockpit? And then they made this whole project, how he made his way in the cockpit. That's really cool on its own, but because it was so interesting to see him again in YouTube videos, I looked what he has done the past years, and he published a video 7 or 8 months ago that he's autistic, and he just realized that he's autistic.
Interesting.
And the first video was one of his team in the workshop where they built the cars, who was sitting there with his psychotherapist. And those two were talking about it and said he doesn't want to talk about it. So, but he said if we can do it. And then some days later, after they get really positive feedback, he sat in front of the camera as well and talked about it. And I had a little bit to think about what you were saying in the airplane hangar, for example, because he said he does all this stuff with fast cars and really living on the edge in some situations, because that's the only those are the only situations where he really feels something. And otherwise he always tries to make up what people think he should feel right now. And it's really complicated what he told in the video.
Oh, interesting.
But I would send him an email and ask if he might be interested on being on the podcast, because it's really far away from his German 4 million YouTube filter bubble. Maybe he's interested in that.
Yeah, that would be, definitely ask him. And I also like the was it a woman who is the Montessori, hooked in with the Montessori?
Yes.
Because this stuff is all connected, and how people learn and what the new learning should look like. What is the new education? Like, what are they looking at for the future with all this stuff coming in? That would, I would find incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
And so like I said, I wanted to get Sharon Hurley on here. She'd already gave me a yes. I've been totally delinquent. And so because I'm saying it now, I'm going to have to do it. And because I want her take on like some cultural stuff and more of the really like the anti-racist things and for the future and what she thinks and stuff like this. I think it would be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Cool. All right then. Yes. Have a good week and see you guys later. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.